Welcome back, party people. Mike here with The Social Life of Language, and today we are covering a chapter from the book, The Souls of White Jokes, How Racist Humor Fuels White Supremacy. So first, I'd like to start off with this little nugget of racist gold that we see in the book. Once upon a time, the United States had a black president. And in Orange County, this nice little old white lady from the Conservative Party, while surfing her dial-up internet, she saw a meme about President Obama that she thought was hilarious. So she thought it'd be a good idea to email all of her GOP colleagues with the joke.
The cartoon went out in a newsletter distributed by a Republican women's group in the Inland Empire. Some members of the Republican group say the cartoon is not only insensitive, it's racist. Did you have any comment that this newsletter was racist?
No, it's not.
It's a watermelon, a bucket of chicken.
So what?
Do you think it's racist?
No, not exactly.
How can a bucket of chicken, ribs, and watermelon?
I eat chicken, I eat ribs, I eat watermelon.
Sadly, not everybody thought it was funny. The end. So I guess the question for this video is the question found in the subtitle of the book. How does racist humor fuel white supremacy? Let's find out. So let's begin with a thesis statement from the author. He says, I argue that racist ridicule in the political arena is a powerful social and political mechanism that has worked to strengthen an ideology of white nationalism by reinforcing racial boundaries of inclusion and exclusion via racial comic dehumanization. So first, I want to highlight what I thought was really special about this book. I think Pérez takes a really unique approach to this because he specifically does not cover racist jokes in the context of stand-up comedy or jokes told by professional comedians. This book looks at three different arenas or contexts: in alt-right groups, in police departments, and in mainstream politics. This gives us a very different point of view, where jokes simultaneously have pro-social effects, but also anti-social effects. Today we are looking at chapter 5, which is all about racist humor in mainstream American politics. But first, to understand this stuff, we gotta think about how we conceptualize what a joke actually is, or what do jokes do, if anything, in American society? Okay, so let me remind you of a basic ideological stance of this YouTube channel. Here we think about language performing action, meaning that language helps build reality and also participates in the unfolding of contexts. And for this video, let's remember that jokes use language. Therefore, jokes help build reality, but not everybody believes that. Let's start with the popular defense, it's just a joke. I want to invite you to think of this not just as a popular opinion, but as a powerful ideological statement about the nature of humor. And also indirectly, this is a statement about the nature of language. In this case, saying it's just a joke is saying that racist jokes, like all jokes, are essentially harmless and don't really do anything. If anything, all they do is create a fun and joyous atmosphere and also enhance social solidarity and togetherness, etc., etc. But notice in that stance a profound contradiction. It says jokes don't do anything, followed by a list of all these forms of social action that jokes can do. In other words, jokes, like all language, performs social action. So maybe it's not so much that we believe jokes don't do anything. Maybe it's more that we want to believe jokes don't do anything bad. One of the main points of this book is that yes, racist jokes can be harmful, but also that from within certain groups, even the worst, most vile racist jokes can still produce fun and create a joyous atmosphere and enhance social solidarity and togetherness from within certain political groups and racial groups. This premise alone is kind of fascinating because in our heads we might think of a stereotypical racist as being permanently and perpetually angry because, you know, Mexicans are taking all the jobs and
they took our jobs! Yeah, they're down, took our jobs!
So it's kind of hard to imagine racist jokes as serving this function of producing joy and solidarity. Again, this means that jokes perform social action. They create identifiable groups. For example, in a different chapter that we're not covering today, the author looks at how alt-right groups really use humor as a way to create a white identity, but also how they attempt to normalize racist sentiment precisely through racist jokes. In fact, joking and irony is exactly the way racism is so easily disseminated within these alt-right groups. For example, the white supremacist website, The Daily Stormer, the founder himself describes how central humor is to the cause. He's quoted saying, "Most people are not comfortable with material that comes across as vitriolic, raging, non-ironic hatred. The undoctrinated should not be able to tell if we are joking or not. There should be a conscious agenda to dehumanize the enemy, to the point where people are ready to laugh at their deaths." So it isn't clear that we are doing this, as that would be a turnoff to most normal people. We rely on the lulz. So there we go. That is a racist guy telling you jokes work perfectly in racist political propaganda. Racist humor does pro-social work of bringing white supremacists and confused white people together in solidarity. These jokes are helping to create a specific kind of white identity. And since white supremacists generally love President Trump, these jokes also participate in the creation of a far-right extremist political ideology. Now, speaking of politics, I decided to cover chapter 5 from the book, which is entitled President Chimp, The Politics of Amused Racial Contempt. Mainly because it's something that we can all see in the news, and no matter when you watch this video, you can be sure that within your next week, at least one Republican politician will spew something stupidly racist, get busted, and then say on the news, "I'm sorry you're offended, it was just a joke. I think you're racist for thinking that I'm racist." So this chapter focuses on jokes that show President Obama as a monkey. And you would think that most people in American society would know that comparing Black identified people to monkeys is pretty high up there on the racist scale. However, when politicians were caught making these monkey jokes, it becomes, whoa, I'm not racist, it's just a joke. Okay, so for a minute, let's think of humor as doing social work, but also doing anti-social work, or creating opposing groups, or like an us versus them type of mentality. Let's look at the example I mentioned at the beginning of the show. In one women's Republican group, one of the most important lady members sent out this meme of Obama in an email. So we got all the racist tropes, right? We got Kool-Aid, KFC, watermelon, etc., etc. Now, it just so happened that one of the members in this Republican group was a Black lady. So we can be pretty sure that this white lady no longer has a Black friend to brag about. So let's look at this example from two different scales, or two different sizes. At the level of individuals, but also at the level of group identity. So of course, this white lady says all the textbook denials, right? I didn't see it that way. It was just food to me. It wasn't intended as a racist joke. At this point, it's very tempting to stay talking at this individual level, because what the racist joke did is pretty obvious. People were embarrassed. People's feelings were hurt, etc., etc. However, Pérez is also inviting us to look bigger, at the scale of group identity. Jokes like this are a clear message that the least prioritized group to Republicans are Black identified individuals, which might have the anti-social effect of excluding Black voters from the Republican Party. Simultaneously, jokes might have a pro-social effect in maintaining the Republican Party as primarily white people. Was this the intention of the old lady? I mean, maybe, maybe not, but focusing on the individual person's intentions puts all the focus on single individual persons doing racist shit, which is fine, but that only tells us part of the story. Pérez's book reminds us to go beyond the individual, go beyond the individual intentions, and encourages us to look at how humor creates social groups, how it creates an us and a them. In this case, we can say that it's helping to create a group of white Republican voters. But obviously, these are not the same alt-right, white supremacist voters. These are regular ass people laughing at the exact same kind of joke that is funny in alt-right white supremacist groups. In other words, humor can harden social divides just as easily as it can be a source of social solidarity. Okay, so now let's look at another meme that a mayor from Orange County sent to his Republican Party. So we got more racist tropes about watermelons, and of course he got busted, and of course, he accidentally sent it to a Republican black lady also. And then there was the Obama as Curious George on a t-shirt incident.
Protesters shout out their opposition to a t-shirt that's a clear slap at Barack Obama. It shows a cartoon eating a banana with the caption, Obama in 08.
That offends them, they are hunting a reason to be offended. I looked and I thought, man, look at those ears and his hairline. That's what I saw. I didn't see anything offensive.
Despite the outcry, one person here says the shirts are selling.
A few people calling in mad, but for the most part, it's people won't know how to get shirts.
Which, of course, the guy that made the t-shirt was utterly shocked that anybody would think this was racist. But this is an interesting example. For a moment, think of a group of people wearing that t-shirt, meaning that this shirt literally creates a visible social boundary, a visible social group between people willing to wear the racist joke and people who are not willing to wear a racist joke. So again, jokes have pro-social and anti-social effects. Now this last example is also really interesting because it's a super old historical white supremacist joke. This one features Abe Lincoln as a monkey holding the Emancipation Proclamation. So notice here how racial humor creates certain kinds of white racial identities, meaning a different kind of whiteness was created here. And Abe Lincoln is positioned as a certain kind of white person that would very likely be uninvited from the Southern white barbecue. The point here is that racist humor is not this new thing. It's also an established, effective way of doing politics in the United States. As propaganda, humor is very effective. So this book says a lot about the social power of racial humor. Jokes, which use language, perform action on the world. They help build reality. They produce social solidarity and social exclusion. And my hope is that someday we get past this whole "it's just a joke" ideology, because that statement really says more about the person who told the racist joke than the racist joke itself. As the author says, racist humor has been and continues to be a powerful mechanism for reinforcing boundaries of inclusion, exclusion, and dehumanization. Well, that's all for today, folks. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and do donate to the Patreon. This is Mike with The Social Life of Language, and we're done.